Welcome to Headlocks, Heels, and Havoc, the wildest mixed tag team in podcasting, where the kayfabe drops and the chaos takes over. Let's ring the damn bell.
Headlocks tight, heels on the prowl, dropping elbows, hearing growl, feel the foul. No script here, just real, no bluff. Kayfabe crack, now the dirt gets rough. Headlocks, heels, havoc in the zone. Step in the ring, chaos is your home. No filters, no mask, just raw bare tone. Wrestling unscripted, we on the throne. Title bells, mic checks, crowd going crazy. Drop truth bombs, leaving lines feeling hazy. Beyond the kayfabe, past the charade, where legends are born and stories get made. Headlocks popping, who's hitting the mat? Welcome to the Havoc where the real talk's at. Tune in, step through, leave the fake at the door. Headlocks, heels, Havoc, now hear the roar.
From the trailblazers who fought for respect in smoky arenas to the global superstars headlining sold-out stadiums today, women's wrestling has transformed from an afterthought into one of the driving forces of professional wrestling. What was once treated as a sideshow has become a revolution built on passion, sacrifice, and generations of women refusing to be overlooked. Legends opened the door, pioneers kicked it off the hinges, and today's athletes continue to raise the bar with every match, promo, and moment that shakes the wrestling world. Tonight on Headlocks, Heels, and Havoc, we dive deep into the evolution and revolution of women's wrestling. From the territorial days and forgotten icons to the rise of mainstream dominance across companies like WWE, AEW, TNA Wrestling, and beyond. This is the story of the barriers being broken, history being made, and the moments that changed the industry forever. The women didn't just earn a seat at the table, they rebuilt the entire table in their image. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am one half of the greatest tag team in this podcasting game, the legend J-Mac. With me, as always, is everybody's favorite uncle and my favorite tag team partner, Uncle Slam.
What's up, family? Shout out to all my nieces and nephews.
There you go. There you go. Yes. At women's wrestling, Uncle Slam. Like this said, it used to be an afterthought, used to be the popcorn match, as they would say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it went from, like they said, you know, the women's match was probably a five-minute match. Sometimes, I've heard stories where the women were given like 4 minutes to go out there and do an entire match. And it's just like they were basically the speed wrestlers before there was the speed division.
There you go.
It blows my mind because, you know, and it's no fault of the women. Like we've said, we repeated 500 million times on this show. It is of no fault of these women because they were not put into positions to be professional wrestlers. They were put into positions to be eye candy for, like we said, 5 or 10 minutes, or, you know, while you go use the bathroom.
Yeah, or ballets or something like that, you know, at the most and stuff. But like I said, they really wasn't taught how to wrestle. You know, you might have to learn to take a little bit of a bump. And then once they put them in the ring, it was like, you know, like what matches did they really have? Nightgowns, evening gowns, bras and panty matches. Was it a housekeeping match or some shit, or housework? Like just the silliness, more like comic relief there, or you know, a little fan service.
Yeah, and it was. That's the sad thing about it. It was, you know, because I say that's the sad thing about it, but I also don't want to underplay it either because, again, at that time, the matches weren't great, you know, and again, through no fault of the performers, you know, themselves, because it wasn't their fault that they weren't being trained. They were told to go out there and have a match, and they were shown how to barely do a wrist lock.
So, like, what do you think changed it, like, where they really started training the women how to wrestle, do you think that they noticed that they had some talent, or do you think they just was desperate and was trying something new? Or was there a certain moment where you think that maybe two women were like, hey, proved that they were good enough to actually be trained like a real wrestler?
I think that's part of it, that these women were like, we're not going out there and we're not doing bra and panties matches anymore. We're
Yeah,
not just going to go out there and be the sideshow. We're not going to go out there and be your eye candy. We can go out there and, I'm sure there were plenty of them, of the ladies who looked at some of the men's matches and were standing in the back or standing at Gorilla and going, I can do better
it's
than
better.
that,
Yeah, better than that.
and I wonder sometimes if somebody didn't hear them and just say, well, go out there and do it then.
Yeah,
I
when
don't know who that was or when that was. I feel like it kind of started, and I don't want to give them the credit if it's not them that did it,
yeah,
because just from my knowledge, it was right around that class of NXT women. The Sasha Bankses, the Charlotte, and the
yeah,
Bailey, and the Becky
Becky
Lynch.
Lynch is basically the
Yeah.
four horsewomen. Yeah,
Yes, and then, once they got up to the main roster, and then you threw in who we just another shout out to her. She just stepped away. We don't know if it's retirement or not, but Asuka came over.
yeah,
She had her big run, and then it just kind of steamrolled from there. You got the Rhea Ripleys that came around, and then you got the EO Skies. There's just so many good women wrestlers now. I tell you one that really, really surprised me, because if I'm being 100% honest, I thought her career was just going to be a career of eye candy, but she surprised me, and that's Liv Morgan.
oh, okay. Yeah,
Liv
she is
Morgan,
tough. She is
yes,
tough, man. Like I give her credit for somebody that is, as attractive as she is. She doesn't mind getting out there and getting hurt, getting bumps, bruises, bloodied or whatever. Like she'll put her body out there.
100%. And it's just like, I don't know. The women's wrestling, my opinion, in probably the last 10 years at least,
Yeah, easily, easily.
has been on par and just as good as any of the men's wrestling.
Yeah,
And I could argue that some of it's even better. The storylines. They seem like they. I don't know. It just seems like they put more into their storylines and stuff than the men are anymore.
mhm.
Just my opinion. And not saying that the men aren't doing things, but it's just I think the women are still, even though I don't think they have to, I think they're still out there trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
You
Trying to
know, and
prove that this is not your mother's or your dad's wrestling. You know what I'm saying? This ain't what it used to be. This is a totally different animal.
yep. So I've got some great moments here that I looked up through women's history and everything. And of course, back in the day, Mildred Burke became one of the first true female wrestling superstars and helped legitimize women's wrestling across North America. I've heard the name. I haven't seen much about anything that she's ever done. Fabulous Moolah wins the WWF Women's Championship in 1956 and holds influence over women's wrestling for decades. If I'm not mistaken, too, Moolah held that title for like 20 something years.
Man, really? Was it that long?
It was a long time. It may not have been that long. I'm not 100% for sure, but as a matter of fact, let's find that out, because I would like to know that.
20 years?
Yes, but again, that's it. Is that because they weren't featuring women's? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's see.
There wasn't a whole lot of options.
Right. Did Moolah hold the WWF TLE? Let's see how long that was. Oh, I'm sorry. Moolah held the WWF slash WWF Women's Championship for a total of how long do you think? I want you to give me a number.
Well, since the way you said that, it makes me think that it's more than the 20 years we were talking about for some reason. Let's say like could have been that long. There's no way she could have. I'm gonna say 20 plus. Let's say
28
23.
years.
Huh?
28 years.
How the fuck did she have it that long?
It says Fabulous Moolah held the WWF slash WWF Women's Championship for a total of 28 years across multiple reigns, making her the longest reigning women's world champion in professional wrestling history. Her first reign began in 1956 when she won the inaugural NWA World Women's Championship, which became the WWF Women's Championship. Now, I did not know that.
Damn, that's amazing.
So that's two world championships from NWA that merged into a WWF world or WWE World Championship. She won it in a battle royal. She defended the title for nearly 3 decades, with her reign ending in 1984 when Wendy Richter defeated her at Madison Square Garden. Moolah regained the title on two further occasions, sorry, before retiring from active competition, but her combined time as champion spanned the full 28-year period. That is so freaking crazy.
Wouldn't that to make her like the longest reigning champ, man or woman, or
I,
man or woman?
I would say so. I mean, I can't think of any, I don't know of any other man that ever held it that long. That's
Wow.
crazy. But in saying that, and this is a whole nother episode, we could definitely have a whole nother episode about that. I don't know if you've heard about the controversy around Moolah,
Yeah, yep.
but
I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before.
yeah, we could definitely have a whole episode about that. So we won't go too much into Fabulous Moolah. I don't know how fabulous she was at that point, but let's see. The debut of Wendy Richter in the rock and wrestling era helped bring women's wrestling to the mainstream TV in the 1980s. See, they say that, but I don't agree with that.
Wow.
I remember there being a couple of women's matches here and there. And like I remember Wendy Richter, or I'm sorry, I keep saying her name wrong, Richter. Uh, and I remember all the rock and wrestling stuff and everything. But like I remember, Moolah losing the title and all that stuff. But I don't remember. I just don't remember a whole lot of women's matches, even in the late 80s up until like honestly and truthfully until the mid 90s when even when Alundra Blaze got to the WWE or Medusa,
Yeah.
and her and Bull Nakano were fighting over the title in the early 90s, it still wasn't featured the way it's featured now.
Yeah.
It was a hit and miss thing.
Yeah. See, because my first memory, of course, is a great Moolah, but I don't ever remember her really wrestling. Like, I just remember her being there a lot. But as far as like actual wrestling, I remember more women's matches with WCW, like Jackie, Medusa, people like that or whatever. Um, and then I would say WWE would probably have to be with like, when they had started having Lita and Trish Stratus and maybe like Beth Phoenix and Mickey James and what was it, Beth Phoenix and stuff like that. Like then I saw, they were a little more athletic or they were doing a little more, and that slowly transitioned to the four horsewomen, which that whole thing was a perfect storm because you got some of the best wrestlers and they were so competitive. They just forced each other to be better and better. That's like, because I always say that all the time. Competition breeds. the best. That's why we got, when we had the Monday Night Wars, they were so good because you had two companies trying to outduel each other. And I think that's what a lot was with the Four Horsewomen. You got Charlotte Flair, you know, and like look at her resume, what 14-time champ, Becky Lynch, her resume speaks for itself. Sasha Banks, Bailey, like I think Bailey's at least what a 4-time, 5-time champ, something like that, at least world champ.
Yeah, and that's not including all the tag teams and
Yeah,
US's and
yeah.
you know.
There's NXT too, also. So I
Yep.
mean, all of them had great careers, but they all were there pushing each other. They were all there, trying to make each other better. So that's why I think that's another reason why the women's division got so good was because you had all this influx of talent that was so good that you just like you couldn't ignore them and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and no disrespect to like the Brie Bellas and stuff like that, because they were all right for their times, but they're just no comparing them to what the women are now and shit. I mean, they're actually going out and recruiting, like NCAA athletes and shit. What like Bianca Belair was, I'm pretty sure she was like a track star from Tennessee. Um, I'm not sure about Rhea Ripley, but I mean, hell, she went through so much, as far over in the Europe, UK, NXT, regular NXT, WWE. So I
Well, I
mean,
think
like it's
the
totally
difference
different.
now is like you said, they're going out and actually getting athletes.
Yes.
It's not just, oh, look, there's a pretty woman in a dress. Let's go get her and make
Yeah.
her a wrestler.
They're going for gymnastics, they're going for track stars, they're going for bodybuilders, you know what I'm saying? Fitness models or people like that and shit.
Oh, and that's the sad thing about it is because they had good wrestlers. Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa, wonderful wrestler.
Yes.
Watch some of her stuff from Japan and tell me she couldn't. You tell me you couldn't pick her out of her spot in time and put her and drop her into nowadays. She'd have fit in perfect. Bull Nakano. Who is it? I'm trying to become friends with her on Facebook. Lilani Kai.
Yep.
There was the talent was there. The talent has always been there. It's just they over I don't even want to say overlooked because they knew it was there. They didn't overlook it. They just didn't feature that kind of talent over the TNA stuff. And I'm not talking about the wrestling company. I'm talking about T and A.
Yeah.
And we all know what that stands for. If you don't, well, then you got to grow up a little bit more before I can explain it to you. But, it's just things like that it blows my mind that like the people were there. It was all about, we're not going to use them for that. We're going to use, we're going to use the TNA to sell that stuff to bring those people in. I don't know. It's almost like they weren't worried. And I think honestly and truthfully with the Charlottes and stuff and everything, they've seen that with actual, and I don't want to say real wrestling because Trish and them and, like Lita and stuff, as much as I appreciate them, they weren't the timing, the training and the timing just wasn't there in the ring for them to be able to be as successful as the ladies today. And I think that even shows whenever they get into the ring with the ladies of today, because the ladies of today are light years ahead of where even Trish and Lita and all them were. But I think that like as great as it was then, it was still sprinkled with the TNA stuff. And nowadays, I think that they've realized that if we actually go out there and let them be athletes, train them right, and put on a decent show, there's a demographic here. There's a whole female demographic that we can go after.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, look at Bailey. How many times do we see pictures of a 16-year-old Bailey going to WWE shows, trying to get autographs and stuff like that? You know, I mean, they're all over the place. Charlotte Flair, she didn't even want to be a wrestler. The only reason she became a wrestler was because of her brother Reed. You know, she said that she was fulfilling his dream of being a wrestler because of where he had passed away so young.
Yeah.
So it's like I love the fact that they have come as far as they have, but it's just sort of sad that they had to go through all the stuff that they went to get to this point. When, like I said, they had the talent was there when they were properly trained.
I think that was just kind of like one of those the sign of the times. You know what I'm saying? Like in that era, that's kind of what people. I don't want to say that's what people wanted, but kind of what people wanted. You know what I'm saying? They wanted, you know, the hot chick. You know, they wanted the pretty chick to sit there and be quiet and show a little this and show a little that. You know, we'll watch our wrestling, but we don't want our women wrestling. We want them to like unless it's pudding, or they're ripping off clothes. We don't really, want to see them do body slams or backflips. And I don't think a lot of people thought that they really could do, put on a good match. And then I think they kind of surprised people. I think when Trish and Lita kind of started doing their thing, they kind of opened the door like a little bit. And then some of these other ladies kind of were like, okay, well, let me show like I could do a little something, something too. And then finally, the four horsewomen just kicked the whole fucking door open, and next thing you know, we got pay per views and they're headlining, WrestleMania. So
Yeah. And just like I said earlier, you had Alundra Blaze, which I don't know. I don't like that name. I'd rather
I
call
just
her
call them
Medusa.
Medusa.
I know.
But
I never did like the Alundra Blaze thing. I always thought Medusa was a better name for her.
yeah,
But you had her and Bull Nakano, and that's the only real rivalry I can think of in the 1990s. As far as, well, the early 90s, I will say, until you got to like the Attitude Era. But even the Trish and Lita stuff, and all when Tori Wilson was there and Jackie, like you said, see, that's another person that I don't think gets her flowers as much as she should, is Jackie.
yeah,
Because Jackie for one, she was built like a brick shit house, and for two, she could go in the ring. Again, she had that problem that they all had back then with the timing, but you could tell she was at least trained a little bit more than most of the other women at that time. So I think that, but up until those women, and they kind of came in the later part of the 90s, almost into the 2000s, when all that stuff really started to kick off. It's sad that the only real, rivalry that we can talk about for the 90s was the Bull Nakano Alundra Blaze, as far as over here in the States.
yeah.
Of course, you go over to Japan, there's a whole different, whole different story.
Why do you think that
Because
is though? Like, why do you think that like Japan was quick to promote women's matches and stuff like that, but over here it took us so much longer to have great matches with women? Is it just a cultural thing? Is it just like what?
I think it was partially cultural, but I also think that over there, as bad as it is to say, I think they just respected women a little bit more over there. And it was more about training them properly
Mhm.
and not just using them for their bodies as we did over here. Promoters over here saw, use it for an example, even though she was always graceful, she was always elegant. You never seen her really doing anything that was provocative or anything like that. But
Yeah,
Elizabeth was always used as a sex symbol,
yeah,
and not saying that Elizabeth was somebody I wanted to see getting in the ring and, trying to deliver a pile driver or anything like that. But I think Elizabeth had more to offer than just, you know, uh, a SummerSlam bikini reveal,
Yeah.
or, later on turning on Macho Man and joining Flair and stuff in WCW. There was just so much more for her to give that they never really, I guess, pounced on or anything. Because, like as you mentioned earlier, uh, up until that point, they were really only used as valets and eye candy and stuff like that. But I think over in Japan, like I said, I just think that they realized the value of women's wrestling as an alternative to 10 men's matches, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, on a card.
Yeah. See, I thought maybe it's just because, of course, cultural has a lot to do with it. Where I think we're more kind of like a sexual culture, and they're more reserved as far as so like they don't have a bunch of, I guess, TNA as far as maybe television. Maybe bikinis. Like maybe that's not a huge thing over there compared to us. So since they don't promote a lot of that, they for for a woman to shine in wrestling, she actually has to know how to wrestle instead of just being, um, just cute. Where over here, we don't really care about that. We're more about how you look, and we rather you just be cute. And if you wrestle, that's great. But if you don't, we don't give a shit.
Yeah. And that's sad. That
Yeah,
it's just it unfortunately that's just the way the business has been over here. But and I don't know. It's just sad. So let me ask you this. Who do you think, or do you think it's an individual, or do you think it's a group like we were talking about earlier with the horsewomen? But who do you think was the biggest game changer in the history of women's wrestling?
see, that could be a two-part question. I would say the easy answer is going to be the four horsewomen. But before them, I would have to say probably China. I know, it's kind of a taboo, given how she left WWE, given, the whole Hunter and Stephanie thing. But I think she came in and she changed a lot of shit when it came to women, because she not only wrestled women, but she did men too. And they pushed her more as a wrestler. She wasn't just a sex symbol. You know what I'm saying? Now, like I know later on they softened her up and she was a little cuter and put more makeup and there was the whole Eddie and her with the like Latino heat and all that shit. But I think she doesn't get enough credit like she should. But because she was dominant and back in that day there was no woman that could fuck with her. I mean there were some men that couldn't even fuck with her. So I know, she was. I mean, she was just a force out there as far. And I believe she could actually wrestle. Like I think she was actually taught a little. Now, like she wasn't a, I ain't gonna say she's a Becky Lynch or a Sasha Banks. I would never go that far, but I think she kind of was a trailblazer. But absolutely, the four horsewomen are the ones that changed the game when it came to women's wrestling or whatever. They came in, they set the bar, they showed people what was possible. They showed the most important thing that you can make money off of. We are bankable. We are cash cows. You put us in main events. You put us in front of people. We're going to draw crowds. We're going to sell T-shirts. We're going to sell merch. We're going to make you rich. Just give us a chance. And they haven't let people down. Like I said, I mean, it started from matches in WrestleMania to headlining WrestleMania to having their own pay-per-views. And I never thought I would see a all women pay-per-view, and they've done it I think twice so far.
Yep. Evolution.
Yeah.
So would you say that China was the wrestler that had the biggest influence on modern wrestling?
I would say you have, say, what would we say, the great Muda, or what's it, not Maylin, but who we just talked about? Can't remember her name.
Moolah,
Mula. So it's
fabulous Moolah.
Mula, and then there's China, then there's your Trish and your Lita, and then there's like the four horsewomen and shit. As far as the evolution to me, as far as women's wrestling, those are the people that were like pillars, and then everybody else just kind of comes in between there.
Okay. So now I'm gonna make you narrow that down a little bit.
All right.
So out of everybody that you just said, who do you think carried women's wrestling during the periods when companies didn't prioritize it?
Talking about WWE, or are you talking about just all wrestling in
Just
general?
women's wrestling in general.
Uh,
Because see, when I first thought about that question, I was going to say Moolah,
yeah,
but then I got to thinking about it. As much as Moolah did hold that title for so long, and I guess was the face of women's wrestling for so long, she just wasn't out there as much.
yeah. See, that's what I was getting ready to say. Like, the easy answer would be, Mula, just because of the longevity and shit. But honestly, just like you just said, she was more of an afterthought. Like, nobody ever thought, when we were thinking about wrestling matches, her on on a card or a pay per view. Yeah, she might be thrown on there, but it wasn't like it was promoted that much. It was that hype. So it is really hard to put her as the easy choice.
I,
Um,
I don't know. Honestly and truthfully, I have a hard time with that question because there's, like we said earlier, even though the product wasn't great in the late 90s, early 2000s, I still got to give the props to Trish and, Lita, Ivory,
yeah.
that little group right there that, kind of came out of that attitude era and into that new aggression era.
Mm,
I don't want to say that necessarily that they carried the women's division, but they were more mainstream to me at a time when wrestling wasn't prioritizing
yeah.
wrestling like that.
See,
I
women's
don't
wrestling is so funny is because it's hard to pinpoint an exact time besides just like some of those key moments. And the biggest one, like I said, is the whole women's like NXT for horsewomen. Because yeah, there was champs, but it's like if nobody knows about you or sees you, like, are you really a great champ? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not out there, and because I never knew until this day that Moolah had it for that long, and I've been a wrestling fan for like 30 years, and that just says it's kind of like that title don't mean shit. I mean, honestly,
right at that
it's like
point.
what value does it have? Like if it's not defended, like what title? I mean, like what meaning does it have? Like we don't see it.
I 100% agree. And like I said, it's sad too. So let me ask you this. As far as like when they changed it from being the women's championship, well, they didn't really change it. They divided it up. Raw had the women's and then SmackDown had the Divas
Yeah.
championship. Do you think that calling it the Divas Championship, and we'll even go as far as to adding the TNA Knockouts Champion, do you think that those, and even today, TNA still uses the Knockouts title?
Yeah.
Do
Okay.
you think that that kind of devalues it a little bit because we're not looking at it as just the Women's World Championship? It's the Knockouts Championship.
I don't think it matters. I think that's just a play on words is words. Like I don't think if it said diva, like if it said women, that to me it takes away from anything. Because some women are divas when it comes to it. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just subjective. Like I said, I don't think it really means, a world champion belt is a world champion belt. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you got a longer name don't mean much to me and shit. Like I said. Like, if the person, like, you can't, sometimes the belt doesn't make the person, it has to be the person that makes the belt. So that's the way I look at it.
I can see that. I can definitely see. Do you think that? How do I say that? Who do you think was set up to be? Who do you think was set up to be the flag bearer of women's wrestling? That it just didn't pan out the way that they thought it was going to. Any promotion.
Oh, that's easy. That's The Rock's daughter, Ava. Shit. They thought
Really?
she's a fourth generation fucking wrestler, or well, supposed to be wrestler and shit.
The first one,
And
too, by the way.
yeah, and she got out there and she tried. Don't get me wrong, but she just wasn't good. And if it, and I'm not trying to take stabs, but she got lucky. Her dad had a big part in the company, so that's why she was moved to GM or president or whatever it was.
The,
So yeah, her, like, she's the biggest, because you figure, like, you're third, fourth generation, you have a lot to draw on, you got a lot of wisdom, you got a lot of people around you. This is the family business. You grew up watching this. You got tips and tricks that other people don't have. And she just never panned out. Like,
you
what
know,
about you?
I was going to say, for me, honestly and truthfully, I think it was Sable.
Sable?
Because I think that they were going to try to, they brought her out as, the TNA sex symbol,
Hmm.
the eye candy for Triple H, I believe it was, and then of course Mark Marrow, and then they did the split between them and she became the women's champion. But and Brock Lesnar, please don't come and hunt me and beat me up because I'm talking about your wife. I know you're retired, but I don't need to get,
Yeah.
I don't want to go Suplex City. I've never wanted to go there. Um, but I think that she was being positioned even over China because I don't think they had plans to really put China in the women's division. Um, I think that was left for Sable to do, and I just don't think that Sable had the ability to do it. One, she couldn't wrestle, and
Yeah.
two, she couldn't do a promo to save her life. I mean, what was her little saying? This is for all the women that what all the men that want me and all the women that want to be me. I mean, it was just terrible. And then she would just like gyrate her hips and everything. It was like the Timu female version of a wannabe Rick Rude. It wasn't even a Timu Rick Rude. It was a wannabe Timu Rick Rude. It was like good. It was Goodwill Rick Rude only in the female version. And I hate to say that, because I'm not saying that she didn't have any value for the product, but it just wasn't what they were trying to push on us.
I think she kind of epitomizes kind of that time in the era, the whole just being pretty is all it took. Like, you didn't really need to wrestle and shit. Because that's all she was. She was a pretty face and stuff. And, like, she didn't have any other real wrestling matches besides the whole nightgowns or bra and panties matches. That was it. You never saw her go out there and suplex somebody or put them in a headlock or put a submission move on or do a backflip. That shit. I mean, she just was never gonna do any of that shit. That's what. I mean, she wasn't there for that. She was there to put on some fake leather, walk around, and be pretty and show some tits.
I agree. I 100% agree. And that's what I said, I'm honestly and truthfully glad that, like, because I think that Trish was being set up for that too.
And
But I'm glad that Trish took it more serious.
yeah, definitely,
And
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't again, the ring timing thing was always off, but it was like at least you could see that she was trying.
Yes.
It wasn't just, well, I'm here for the paycheck, so, blah, blah, blah. I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
she was trying to better her craft or whatever. She wasn't just it's like, okay, I'm good enough. I'm gonna stay like this. I don't need to learn anything new. She was
I
like, okay, I'm trying to get better. Like I want to be able to be the star of the show.
Yep, I agree. So, which match do you consider the greatest women's wrestling match of all time? If you had
See,
to
now
just
that's
off the cusp.
now that's a tough one to say because like I really didn't get into a bunch of women's wrestling because I missed the golden era. You know what I'm saying? The whole NXT, the Four Horsewomen. I didn't come into a little bit later, so I was doing a lot of catch up. Trying to think what would I say is the best match? Anything, honestly, like anything you put Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch in, it's going to be a great match. Honestly, I think you just really can't lose. Or Charlotte Flair, like you put any of those three in a match, and I'm going to watch.
If I'm
Uh,
going stateside and not, just going from, the United States wrestling product, I would say right now, and I don't know if it's the greatest, but I would definitely say it's probably top five. But the Charlotte Rhea Ripley match at WrestleMania.
that's what a lot of people say. So
I
I
think
had saw that as like one of the top answers on the list and stuff.
there's something about that match that I've always liked. I always thought that, it was an exciting match, honestly, because it was Charlotte and I didn't know, which I don't know. I don't know that Charlotte Flair won't go down as the greatest women's wrestler of all time.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that nobody can, change my mind on that. But for right now, for my money, if you held a gun to my head, that's who I would pick is
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Yeah, I would say she is the greatest of all time as of right now.
What about that time she had that match with Oscar, like where she ended her streak?
Again, it's hard. Like you said, it's hard to go against any match that Charlotte's
Or
in.
or like any of those Hell in a Cell matches. Um, all those were good and shit too.
Now, yeah, she's just you can tell there's not a time that Charlotte Flair, and I'm not saying that she's the only one, but you can tell there's not a time Charlotte Flair doesn't go out there and try to put 100% into everything she's doing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, and I hate to say this, I asked you about the worst women's wrestler, but I have to put Nia Jax in that conversation. Shout out to Andrew Paletto. But yeah, I mean, and it's nothing against her. Like, I just don't think that anybody has taught her how to wrestle the way she needs to wrestle.
Safely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's like, like I was saying, well, even Hogan. What is it Hogan told Big Show? Or, well, he was the Giant at the time. He said, I heard you did a missile drop kick off the top rope. And he was like, yeah. He was like, if you ever do that again, me and you will never work together. He was like, you don't need to work like that. You need to learn how to work as a giant. You're a giant. Be a giant. And that's Nia Jax. Nia Jax is a giant in women's wrestling. She's just so much more powerful and so much more domineering over the other women. There's no reason why she shouldn't be the champ.
yeah.
So let me ask you this. Did the women's revolution, quote unquote, actually change wrestling forever, or is there still work to do?
Oh, there's always room to improve and shit. I mean, that's the good thing about wrestling. Like, there's always time to evolve, to get better. Um, You know what I'm saying? I mean, I truly believe that that the next great star is coming. Like people like Soruka. I mean, like if she can stay healthy, uh, I believe like she could be probably the next great like women's wrestler or whatever. I mean, she's got that athleticism. She's over with fans. She's got all types of moves out there. You know what I'm saying? Like shit that people haven't seen before. So yeah, easily room for things to get better and stuff. But you got to want it though. You got to put money behind it. You got to make sure you keep up with the training. And the biggest part is competition.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to be a problem now because there are so many other organizations as far as TNA, AEW that have really good women's wrestlers out there. You know, you got Tekla, you got Tony Storm, you got what used to be Sasha Banks with Monet. What is it? Monet something. I can't think of it.
Mercedes Monet.
Yeah. You got
Yeah,
her out there stealing stuff.
which is
So
Sasha Banks.
yeah, pretty much Sasha Banks. So like as long as you keep having all that great competition that they keep pushing women to get better and better, and you got great teachers out there, hell yeah, it can get better. Hell yeah, I mean it could take over. You know what I'm saying? And at one point, I think that it really did. It outshined the men, especially when you got them like headline pay per views and stuff. Like I said, like when you have it as a main event for WrestleMania, that says a lot. I don't care like whether it's a co-main event or not. If you're main eventing WrestleMania, that's big.
Yeah, and a couple of names that you didn't mention in just wrestling, Dr. Britt Baker
Mm-hmm.
and also Tessa Blanchard. Now I know everybody says that Tessa's got a little bit of an attitude and everything, but your daddy's Tully Blanchard. He kind of got I ain't saying you got to go out there and earn it, but when you've got that kind of tutelage and have been living it that long, you know what I mean? You walk around with a little bit of arrogance.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
mean you gotta
saying?
have a chip. I mean, like, what would Charlotte be like if she didn't have that swag like her dad and shit? Like
Right.
if she didn't come across like. But the key is you also have to be able to back it up. You can't go out there and talk a bunch of shit and then not be able to back it up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why people like people that talk shit. Like, if you go out there and talk shit, like, nobody will ever say anything about you except for your cocky. If you go out there and fucking lay an egg, everybody's talking about how you look like a fool.
Yep. 100%. So, in saying that, which women's wrestler do you think should have been a bigger star than what they were?
Bianca Belair.
You really? Do you
Yeah.
think it's not there for her to be able to still do it, or do you think
I
she's
think
kind of
she can.
pigeonholed?
I don't understand what's really going on with the whole finger injury and stuff. Obviously, like it's bigger than it is now. Well, now she's pregnant. I mean, my
Right.
bad and stuff. So obviously, she's going to be out for at least a year, baby, and then get back in shape and all that. So, um, I think that she could have been a whole lot bigger or whatever.
I definitely think she had the momentum behind her, and it was just
Yeah,
like it just kind of like went away. I don't know if it was them pulling the rug out from underneath her or something that she did behind the scenes that
yeah,
stopped the push. But I that's one person I do agree with.
yeah. I think her.
Bailey is another one.
Yeah, like she was huge in like NXT and she's had great matches and shit and she's really over, the whole hugging thing and all that. But it's just now they just kind of pushed her to tag team, almost like she done pissed somebody off.
Mhm. It wouldn't surprise me to see Bailey leave here soon. It
Like
really would not.
I think she should. Like I think she could be so much bigger someplace else. But like I feel like they kind of shit on her.
I agree. So do you think athleticism or storytelling, or is it just the right combination of both is more important for women's wrestling right now?
I think honestly, like you got to have both because we've talked about it before, and you and JD kind of argued about it. But like one likes good wrestling, one likes one with a little more story. I think you have to have a nice balance. I think if you lean too far in one or the other direction, it's like you're gonna lose some fans. And I think to keep everybody happy, you got to have that nice balance of a good story, but you also got to have that action to hold them there.
Right. Well, just to clarify, me and JD weren't arguing. I was just showing him why he was wrong. But I love you, JD. I'll have a message here soon.
Here, let me ask you a question. Who do you think is the most overhyped women's wrestler?
Of all time or right now?
Uh, all time, right now, either I guess all time, whatever you want.
Overhyped?
Yeah,
Hmm. If I'm just answering off the top of my head without being able to really, take a while to think about it and just from the heart, standing 10 toes down, Lita.
Lita, really?
Yeah. I just never, one, I never bought into it. And two, I just never thought she was that good in the ring.
See,
Like,
I thought the opposite because I didn't really see a whole bunch of chicks doing kind of what she did at the time. Eventually, Trish did, but you know,
like,
I,
as
I
far
think
as
that's
the
kind of
moonsaults and stuff,
yeah.
yes, I give her credit for that because she was very innovative for doing stuff like that. But like, go back and watch her try to deliver a twist of fate. It's terrible. I mean, it's
Yeah.
bad, terrible. Like I was afraid she was going to break somebody's neck
Do
or
you
something.
think that she just underachieved, or do you think she was bad?
I think it was those two factors. And I think it was just the lack of training that they were willing to do with the women back then.
Okay.
And I tell you somebody that, I think that was better than Lita, but doesn't get the hype that Lita did. And I think that overall she was a better wrestler than probably Lita and Trish was Molly Holly.
Mm.
Molly Holly, people she was a good wrestler. She was gorgeous George
Yeah.
in WCW, but people, I had honestly and truthfully, I'd forgotten about Molly for a long time, and then I seen a clip with her in it and everything, and I was, really started looking at the clip and everything, and like she was smooth. You know what I'm saying? You could tell she had had that real training, not
Yeah.
just the, you're a woman, let's show you a few moves to get you through the match training.
See, I thought you might say kind of like a Natalia or some shit because she's got a good foundation, dad, uncle, as far as that. But if you're talking overhyped, I was gonna say like Michelle McCool. Please take her, don't come after me,
Yes, I agree.
because she was cute, but she sucked. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't even know how the hell they put her in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I think that was atrocity.
It was
I'm not
it
saying
was nepotism because of the Undertaker.
exactly because she doesn't deserve to be in there. Like,
No,
I mean,
and I do have to agree with you. I think as far as just if we're talking, do away with the character,
mm,
do away with all that stuff, and just go by in ring work. I think Natalia is probably one of if I would have to really sit down and look at it. But off the top of my head, Natalia is probably top 10 all time women's wrestlers.
yeah,
She's
because
just
she's got
that
a good
good.
yeah, like she's got a good foundation. You know what I'm saying? Like when you come up in the dungeon and shit, and your whole family's of wrestlers. As far as the base. Now, it took her a while to develop a personality or to be able to cut a good promo and shit. Now she's gotten better. She's changed it up to what is it? Is it Natty or something now
Yeah.
or whatever? Where she's
Natty
more hard.
Neidhart.
Yeah, but I think she has a great, but as far as the great foundation, I'm trying to think who else. Um,
While you're thinking about that, add this on to it too.
all right,
Which women's wrestler do you think had the best character work of all time? Not in ring, just character work.
here, maybe AJ.
She really sold into the,
Yeah,
the skipping around, being kind of condescending and haha, I'm better than you, that kind
yeah,
of, yeah, I could see that. She did good. I think Charlotte bought into being the female version of Ric
over.
Flair.
Yep, yep,
I am just this damn good, and if you think I'm not, go out there and prove me wrong.
exactly. I got the titles to back it up.
Yep.
This is the way we're supposed to be like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I 100%. I've always thought that. So, who do you think out of all the companies out there between like WWE, AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, and all that stuff, um, who do you think has the strongest women's division?
See, that's tough, man. Just like I said, I only really pay attention to WWE, NXT, and AEW. I don't watch a whole bunch of TNA, so I'm not sure about their women's division. I know I watch clips here and there and stuff, but I don't watch it like I do all the others and stuff. And I only watch AEW a lot. Like I just catch more of the action. Um, Man, that is so tough. I mean, that is so tough to say right now. I want to say it's WWE, but I would say it's tied between WWE and AEW for sure.
Yeah.
Because I love Tony Storm. I love what's her name, Statlander. Um, I
Yeah.
enjoy
Timeless
Tech.
Tony Storm. I love listening to her do an
Oh yeah,
interview.
she cracks me up. I'm starting to enjoy Tekla.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just like the name Tekla or if I her being like I like all these dumb bitches. And I say dumb bitches, and y'all pop up. You know what I'm saying? Like then the whole turnaround, the whole spider, thing. Uh, like I've really started to enjoy her too a lot. So I would say it's either going to be AEW or it's going to be WWE, in my opinion. But it's really hard. I would probably give WWE just a little more credit, just because I think they have a little more deeper pool. But I think AEW is probably a little more polished.
I
But
can
they
see
also
that.
do a lot more hardcore matches that kind of turn some people off. But some of their matches they do have are unfucking believable.
Yep. So let's see. How do I put this? Well, before I get into that, I'll think about how to word that question. So, what do you think are like some of the most important, not necessarily matches, but moments in the history of women's wrestling?
Well, let's see. One would probably like when they had their own pay per view to start with.
Yeah,
The Evolution pay per view. Like women only pay per view was probably a huge moment because I don't think anybody's done that
I
since
can't
then.
think of another company.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like unless it's WoW, which is all women and stuff.
Right.
Um,
Or Glow.
yeah, Glow or some shit like that. So I mean, that's probably the first jumping off point would be having their own pay per view. Second would be probably a WrestleMania headlining, and then maybe like the Hell in a Cell match because most of those are always been men dominated matches. You know, chamber matches and stuff. Men, mostly men and stuff. Um, so it's just like they're going where what used to be only men domain and kind of making it theirs,
Yeah.
and they go just as hard. You know what I'm saying? Like like some of those Hell in a Cell matches that I was watching doing research. You know, the matches with Rhea. The matches with Bailey. I mean, EO even gives a good match and stuff. I mean, like she's really technical. Like I don't think people appreciate like how good she really is. Her and Asuka. You know, I know Asuka passed the torch to EO, but watch their matches. I mean, they have really fucking good. Like as far as being like wrestlers, really really good matches and shit.
I agree. Yeah, and it's so sad to see Oscar go, because she's so good. She really is so good. I always thought of her as like the female version of the Great Muta.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, if she's
Well,
got
she
to
had
go,
the
she's got
mist.
to go.
Remember? I mean, that's why. I mean, the Buddha
Yeah.
had the mist. She had the mist and stuff. So when you think about it, I mean, that's why I always thought. Hell, I used to think that it was his daughter or some shit. But
Right.
she's over there spraying
Could you
people too
imagine
and
how
shit.
cool that would have been? Muda's daughter out there blowing the poison mist.
Hmm.
Let's see here. Okay, so which younger women's wrestlers do you think could become the next all-time great? Like that's out there now. I know you said like Sol Ruka.
So Ruka's my easy answer right now and stuff. Probably, I'm trying to think right now who's the next up and coming people. Uh, I like Jada Parker on NXT. Trying to think who else that I kind of enjoy. Okay,
Me personally, while you're thinking, I was gonna
okay,
say,
go ahead.
for me personally, I would if well, for one, if she would get her whatever attitude they say she has, I think Tessa Blanchard,
Uh-huh.
and I honestly and truthfully think that Dr. Britt Baker from AEW, but of course they're not using her.
Yeah.
She hasn't been on TV in forever. I don't know. I know they say there's issues there or something. I don't know, but I think those two names stand out and will probably be two of the biggest names in the probably the next 10 years in women's wrestling.
I, I, I mean, like, I definitely believe that it's got a good future and stuff. Like, I don't think that it's going to slow down. I mean, like, slow down like anytime soon. And I don't think it's a fad. Um, so I'm trying to think, like, who else I would say is a up and coming talent. What was it? Like Kalani Jordan, and I kind of like her too and stuff. And she's been on kind of hot winning streak. I'm trying to think of anybody in the WWE that I could think of. I thought they were doing something with that one chick with Natalie. What's her name with the suspenders? But I don't really. I can't stand the suspenders. I don't know why they do that to anybody, especially women.
Oh, Maxine Dupree.
Yeah, yeah. I cannot. Like, I don't know why. I hate when they put suspenders on women.
You know that's LA Knight's sister.
Oh, is it for real?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank God they didn't put suspenders on his ass.
Because
'Cause
he
every
used
time
to,
they get hyped up and they pop them off, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. I hate that shit.
yeah, she's that's he used to wrestle as Max Dupree.
I think
Oh
I think I saw a fact the other day where it said uh, the last person to manage him was Paul Heyman.
no, Paul Bearer.
Oh, Paul Bear. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Paul Bear. My bad. My
Yep. That's crazy. LA Knight was the last person Paul Bearer ever managed,
bad.
not the Undertaker. That's crazy. Crazy facts. Crazy facts. Let's see here. I'm going through my questions here. I wrote up and everything. What? Okay, if you could book one dream match. Oh, let me go back for a second before I ask you that, because we were talking about huge moments in women's wrestling. You
Mhm.
know, I think, and shout out to a dear friend of ours, Miss Calamity Jane. Love you, Jane. Hope you're doing all right. Much love. Can't wait to see you back doing what you do best, ma'am. Um, but and the reason I say shout out to her too is because she got a picture with her doing it. But she took a former podcast that we used to semi associate with. She took their belt to the wrestling convention that she went to, and she met Medusa, and she had Medusa hold the belt
No,
over top of the trash can.
no,
It was
no.
great. It was
Oh
great.
my god.
But I
No.
think that right there, the
Oh.
real when she dropped the WWF belt into the trash on WCW television, I think that could have been a huge jumping off point for women's wrestling. If WCW would have done it right, because I mean, of course, we've seen Medusa do it. And then we didn't see Medusa again for 4 or 5 months.
Mhm.
Which made no sense. But I think that moment in and of itself could have been a huge jumping off point for women's wrestling back then in the 90s.
Hell, that
But
was huge for wrestling in general, man. Because remember, I think if it wasn't for some of that, then we might have not got the Montreal screw job. Because remember, it was only a couple months before when she did that, and then after a couple months after that, it was, the whole, Montreal screw job with Brett and Sean. And Vince was thinking about it. He just had that happen. He's like, I can't have that happen again. I definitely can't happen with my main belt.
yep,
And if she hadn't done that, I don't know if we would have still had the screw job like we had it. Vince
I
might not
agree.
have been as pressed about it, but that was huge in wrestling itself.
Yep,
Whether it was women or men, that was a big moment because that was one of the first times you saw another champ take a belt to another organization and trash it.
yep. I agree 100%. Not just a huge moment for women, but a huge moment in wrestling in general, wrestling history. So the question I was going to ask is if you could book one dream match from any era of any women's wrestling, what would it be and why? Who is the two, or it could be a tag team, triple threat, whatever. Just what would your match be? Your dream match?
Ooh, that's kind of hard right there. I probably have a couple, honestly. Like, I love Stephanie Care, so I would want to see her and maybe part of me wants to say Lita go at it and shit, honestly. I think they would have a good match. I still think Stephanie would dominate though. Um, I would like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing Stephanie and with Sasha Banks go at it. Honestly, like I think that would be a hell of a fun match. Um, trying to think anybody. I wouldn't mind having like Tony Storm and like a Becky Lynch go at it or some shit.
Okay.
Um, uh, or Tony Storm and pretty much anybody in WWE. Honestly, like I think that she can. Like she's one of those people. Like she's not the best wrestler, but like she gives it all and shit. Man, she's gonna put her body. She's gonna put her fucking soul on the line. Like, cause you could put her in like a Hell in a Cell match. My God,
Yep.
man, that shit's gonna sell. That shit's gonna sell.
One that I was thinking about, I would love to see a prime Medusa take on a prime Charlotte Flair.
That wouldn't be better. See, I wouldn't mind seeing like a Ronda Rousey with uh, I was gonna say like a Jackie, but I don't think that like maybe a China, honestly. China and
Man,
like Ronda Rousey maybe go at it and shit.
I'd like to see just if Ronda Rousey could throw her around the way that she does some of the women that she, you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Because I'm just wondering how much the power of China would
yeah.
come into play in that
Well, see,
situation.
I think that's one of those things that goes back to strength or athletic ability compared to technical skill. I think Rousey's gonna have the technical skill because like MMA and judo and shit. But when it comes to athleticism and strength, I think then China's gonna have the edge.
Yeah, I definitely do too. Especially like like you said, the technical. Rousey's got that technical wrestling as far as the ground and pound, and China's just going to hit you and break your nose and be done with it.
What do you
Uh,
think as what do you think as Ronda Rousey as a wrestler coming from MMA? Like, do you think she was a great representation? Do you think she did a good job? Do you think she was kind of out of her league, and maybe she should have stayed back and took a little more training?
More training.
Do you think
I
she was
honestly,
overhyped?
no. I think she
Okay.
needed more help on her promos,
Uh-huh.
needed more time. Honestly and truthfully, I would have liked to have seen. I do think she needed more training, but I don't think she did bad in the ring.
Yeah.
And I think she didn't do bad because she had that judo and that the training
Yeah.
of real fighting.
Mm.
Um, honestly, what I would have loved to have seen is I would have loved to have seen Ronda Rousey be the first Paul Heyman girl.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Yes, have Paul Heyman as her mouthpiece, and then have Paul Heyman running the show to where they're running roughshod all over the women's division.
Imagine him having Brock and Ronda Rousey. I mean, he'd be like, I got the men in the women's division.
Ronda Rousey joining the bloodline.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying? That would have been great. I think that could have worked. I really think that could have worked, honestly and truthfully. So, which woman's wrestler changed your opinion over time the most? Or was it more of a feud, or was it just an individual wrestler that you looked at and was like, okay, these women are, really, they're really taking it serious now. Not just the women, because like we've mentioned it, it's not all been their fault that, women's wrestling wasn't taken serious. But what was that one woman that made you look at it and go, oh, okay, this one can really wrestle. This woman can really do what the guys are doing.
when I was younger, I would probably say Lita just because I was amazed at the backflips, and I think she was doing some shit that I never saw like a woman do before.
The
But the
Hurricane
older I
Ranas and
got,
stuff.
yeah, and I kind of paid attention more to shit. Um, I would probably say like a Becky Lynch,
Okay.
like somebody because she kind of did it all, and I think she got better in age and shit. She learned to cut a promo. She learned who she was. Like she moved into the man, stick and just ran with it and shit. And like
Big
even after
time
taking off,
Bex.
yeah, and like even after taking off having a baby for a year and shit, she still came back and was just as popular, just as strong. It's not like she even lost a step really and shit.
Yeah. I was trying to think, like, I don't know. It's hard to go, and no, I would say probably and I don't want to say worst, the the bottom of the totem pole for those four, as far as the four horsewomen, I think was Sasha Banks. As much as I really liked Sasha Banks, I thought she was a little haughty. But as far as those four, it was hard for me to go against any of those four as far as changing my mind.
Oh,
Because when I seen the matches just between like Bailey and Sasha Banks and, Becky Lynch and, Charlotte, or, however that combination ended up with them wrestling each other, they were just good matches. You know what I mean? It was hard to find a bad match between all of them. So I
oh,
think for me it was probably just that combination of them coming up from the NXT roster, because like you, I didn't get to see them whenever they were in NXT doing the four horsewomen thing.
yeah.
It was after they moved up to the main roster that I really, started paying attention to them. But I can't think of anybody else besides them that really kind of like was like, oh yeah, these people. And I think what even took it further from that for me, honestly, was Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
Because I think Rhea Ripley she was kind of like a hybrid between China, and not just the look and everything, but the power.
Yeah.
She was the hybrid of the power, but she could also do some of the technical stuff like Charlotte and them and everything. I think I think Rhea Ripley is the woman who took it from what the horsewomen brought it up to. She took it and ran with it to bring it to the next level.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that she's like the greatest of all time or anything like that? No. But
Yeah.
I think she was the one that was smart enough at that time to grab it and run with it.
See, I agree with you on as part of that hybrid, but the only bad thing is that I think she's a step above, say, like a China-ish, just because she knows how to cut a promo. I can't remember one of China's promos as far as memorable and shit. But I think Rhea, as far as being comfortable on the mic, and you know, I guess a lot of it has to do with training. Like I said, when she started in UK and then came over to America, and you know, she went through a lot of, to get there and shit. She had a lot of training, she had a lot of backing and shit. So I I think that's what kind of made her kind of step above. But yeah, she definitely took that next step. And I'm curious, like I said, when you have people like Stephanie Vercare and then a lot of these, So Ruka, like a lot of these young talent coming up. I mean, they're only getting better. You know what I'm saying? As long as they can stay healthy and don't really hurt themselves, the sky's the limit and shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we could be seeing all types of matches from now on here. Maybe some
What?
new shit.
Right? 100% agree. So I've got just two more questions left for you. Well, questions to ask that we can discuss, unless you got anything. So, looking ahead in 5 years or so, where do you think women's wrestling will be compared to like today, as it was, today compared to 10 years ago or whatever?
Um, I definitely think it kind of. I don't want to like to say it peaked, but I think it definitely hit a high point. Um, I think it went down just a little bit from its peak. But like most things, I think it has peaks and valleys. I think it's in a good place. I don't think it'll have any problem staying around. I don't think it's a fad by any stretch of the imagination. Um, I think they have a great developmental, pipeline. I think they're getting a lot of athletes, and I think they're looking at it differently now. Instead of just being pretty, that they want people that actually have athleticism that can learn and you know do stuff. So, like they're going in it the right way and stuff. They have the right mindset. So I think it's in a good place. Now, the only thing I'm probably worried about is how they're going to treat creative and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like with obviously with TKO fucking shit up. If you keep them out of the, but as far as out of the mix, um, I think they'll be fine and shit. You know what I'm saying? You got people like Shawn Michaels, you got people like Triple H, Undertaker, developing talent and shit. I think it's fine. Like I said, it might not get as high as it was, but I don't think it's gonna drop and be shitty or by any stretch of the imagination. Because there's just too much talent going around right now. There's just too many hungry people, and I think WWE is realizing that shit. I mean, like look at the other talent and shit. Like, because I think that draws a lot of people into other organizations. Is their women's division? Like, you can't ignore the women's division now and shit. Like, you just can't. Like, and you better have one. Like, if you don't have one now, then you're a step behind.
Yep. I 100% agree, because I mean, there's too much of a women's demographic in
Oh
wrestling
yeah,
now to be able to ignore women's wrestling anymore.
women and girls buy merch just like guys do and shit.
That's it.
And probably
100%.
more of it, honestly. Shit, especially if it's clothes. Hell,
Right? Yeah, we won't get into that. All right. So, last question I got before we let these good people get on to bed and everything. We're pushing midnight. We don't want to go into the Saturday morning thing like we did last week.
hell yeah. Ooh, got
I
perfect
think Uncle
yawning.
Slam's about ready to go to
I
sleep too.
know. I'm probably definitely going to sleep after this.
So, last question.
Hmm.
Who is your Mount Rushmore if you had if all women's wrestling ended today and there was never any more women's wrestling after today, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of women's wrestlers?
And that's four, right?
Four.
I want to say Oscar. No, I'm going to say Charlotte Flair to start with. I'm going to say Oscar. I'm going to say, have to say Becky Lynch. Probably Sasha Banks, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, no slight to Bailey and shit, but I think that their resumes are just a lot better. You know what I'm saying? As far as everybody else's, they're just a stud.
It's hard for me to go back, and again, nothing against the Richters, nothing against the Rockin' Robins or the Moolahs or the Mae Wests or anything like that. But back then, there was a lot less wrestling and a lot more hair pulling.
Yeah.
There was a lot of snap mares with a hair pull is what I remember seeing a lot back
Yep,
then.
sure was.
Um, for me, if I'm going to pick a Mount Rushmore right now, I would definitely have to put Sasha up there.
Yeah.
Not Sasha. Wow, why did I say Sasha?
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Okay.
Um, Asuka. I 100% agree with that.
Okay.
I would say Natalia.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And I'm just basing this strictly off of in-ring ability.
Okay.
Nothing more, no character behind it or anything like
Yeah.
that.
I feel that.
And probably my last pick right now would be Bailey.
Bailey. Okay.
Just, but again, there's so many great women out here now, and we're just now getting to feature them. I mean, I could honestly, I could see myself switching like Bailey or Natalia out for Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just how close all of
Mhm.
them are to each other right now, because they've just those horsewomen up the bar,
Yeah. Definitely.
and a lot of the women have answered that challenge.
Yeah.
Like the Stephanie Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Who's the other one? Valkyria.
Uh-huh.
Her. Soruka. There's so many up and coming women too that are, like I said, they're meeting that bar that the horsewomen set. And I think the women's wrestling has nowhere to go but up because of just what they did, 10 years ago of getting them out of the shadow of, again, no offense to Trish and Lita and them, but they got out of the shadow of what they were even pressed to do as far as the TNA, the bra and panties matches and stuff like that. So I've got to give it up to the women and everything. I mean, there are times when I'm watching a PLE or something and I'm like, I would rather this men's match get over with so I can see that women's match because I'm more
Yeah.
interested in that. I was more hyped last year. I was more hyped with the return of AJ Lee than I was just about anything else that happened in wrestling. In WWE wise, at least.
Yeah. 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 I get
So I
that.
mean, that's just my opinion. So, Uncle Slam, before we get out of here, give us one last take on women's wrestling from your point of view, from Uncle Slam's point of view.
From Uncle Slam's point of view, I'm going to say that women's wrestling is the future. Um, don't sleep on it. Watch it. It's going to be, like I said, the future is very bright. They have a great developmental league. There are stars coming left and right. They're going for athletes. There's no more. I'm not going to say they don't have TNA, but they're going for real athletes with real talent, which means you're going to get really good wrestling. And eventually, we're going to start getting more second generation wrestlers. I've known Eddie Guerrero's daughters is
Yep.
going to start wrestling. I think there was a couple more other like second or third generation people that had wrestlers.
Isn't it Rey Mysterio's daughter,
Yep,
too?
yep, yep.
Yeah.
So like that, man, the future is bright on it and stuff, man. When it comes to the women and stuff, man, you ain't got nothing but good things to look forward to.
I 100% agree with everything you just said. And I will sum it up this way. Just like me and Uncle Slam on this show, women's wrestling's future is so bright, they got to wear their shades.
There you go.
I mean, that's just the way it is. I think it's been nothing short of a positive influence on wrestling, on women, young girls that look up to these, wrestlers that, I remember whenever I was a kid, it was kind of, unless you had your wrestling friends, you didn't really talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
You talked about the football, you talked about the baseball, you talked about the basketball, but, unless somebody else was talking about some wrestling, you really didn't bring it up. And I feel like even after for males that it became more popular to talk about wrestling, it was still unpopular for a girl to talk about being a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Now, my daughter runs around, she loves wrestling, especially independent wrestling, and she loves some of these the ladies. At the last show I went to for EWA, she left the table that we had. Uncle Sam unfortunately didn't get to go. She left the table that we had where I was working trying to sell shirts and stuff, and went over and sat at the female wrestlers table with her.
So,
Came back and asked permission. She said, "Daddy, can I go sit down with Brooklyn Ray?" Shout out Brooklyn. But she said, "Can I go sit down at her table?" I was like, "Is that okay with her?" She said, "Yeah." I asked her. She said it was cool. She went and got her went and got her a chair and sat right down there with her and everything. But it's fun to see that not only little boys but little girls are getting into this stuff too, and there there's worse role models for these girls to be able to look up to. I am I am happier for my daughter to look up to Brooklyn Ray, Lexi Green, Dahlia. There's so many names just in the independent circuits that I've met. I'm so much more happy for my daughter to be looking up to them than Lady Gaga or, Taylor Swift and all this other, stuff that's just so mainstream. It's just make you gag, and it's not necessarily all that wholesome either. You know what I'm saying? But these wrestling ladies are out there showing these girls that if you work hard, and I'm not saying that these other entertainers aren't, but just from personal experience, these ladies are out here working their butts off and still turning around and telling these little girls, keep your dreams open, shoot for the stars. If I can do it, you can do it. Lexi Green, shout out to you. She didn't know my daughter from a hill of beans. Adrian Alexander told me I could go get in his ring for the first time. I got to step into the ring, and my daughter's sitting there looking at me going, "Daddy, can I get up there? Can I get in the ring?" I didn't have permission to tell her yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's not my ring.
Yeah.
Lexi Green grabbed my daughter from underneath the arms, picked her up, put her on the mat, and said, "Get in that ring if you want to." That's inspiring to a little girl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not only were you, pushed, even a little gesture like that, you weren't just pushed by a wrestler, you were pushed by a female wrestler, somebody you can connect with, and there's so many little girls out there that can look up to these ladies and connect with these ladies on a level that they can't connect with Randy Orton. They can't connect with Cody Rhodes. They can't, they don't know what it's like to, I don't, they don't know what it's like to go out there and wrestle, in all the facets that a female has to, look at. They've got to, I don't know. It's just, I'm so proud of where women's wrestling has come and where it's going to go if it keeps going this direction. because it's definitely something that women can look up to now. Little girls can be, look at it as a future. It's something to strive for, work for, and it doesn't have to be just a boy's thing or a man's thing. They're putting their foot down and saying this is our thing too. So for me, that's just I'm really enjoying where women's wrestling is, and I wish them all the success in the world, especially these independent ladies that we go and support and everything every month. We love y'all to death, because y'all are hometown heroes and stuff. Like I said, like Lexi Green, like Black Dahlia, like Brooklyn Ray, and there's so many more that I'm forgetting to mention, and but we love all of you. We want to get Dahlia on the show too and let her tell her story. That's an inspiration story right there in and of itself. I don't even know her full story, but I would love to get her on here and talk to her about it. But yeah, I mean, as far as women's wrestling, I don't have anything else to say other than it's going great places. Uncle Slam, you got anything else?
Not today, sir. I'm tapped out.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Well, Merle, you caught us right at the last little bit of it, brother. Shout out to Dave. Let's see, ladies. They will available soon. Phone is jumping. I'm sorry, Keita. I don't know what you mean by better answer. Please let us know in the comments and everything, and I will get back to you as soon as we get out of here, and I will see I'll see it and I will answer what you meant. But yeah, guys, we appreciate everybody being here. We will be back next week. Keep tuned in because hopefully we got a couple of big things on the horizon here. We just found out today. I don't want to tip our hat too soon. But if we do, we can't wait to bring you these shows. And like Uncle Slam said, he's tapped out. Referees hit that 3 count. I ain't got nothing else, so we're going to ring that damn bell.